Hey, so Scarlet Nexus just came out, and I, like the Bandai Namco whore that I am, had to check it out. Originally, I was going to buy this game at launch, but my mom decided to borrow my credit card and she managed to block it while ordering food through Uber Eats on accident. Or so she says. Whatever, now that I'm pretty much done with the game, I thought I should put out a review, that way you would know whether or not it's worth it to spend 60 bucks on this, or if it's better to, I don't know, maybe buy a waifu body pillow, or a game that is universally considered great like Polly Pocket's Super Splash Island. Before we get into the review, a few warnings. First of all, don't worry about getting the story spoiled too much, as I won't be covering that aspect of the game. The enjoyment provided by stories in video games are subjective, and thus, it varies from person to person, although I do have a few comments to make on it, and those are, the premise is interesting enough, although I think the execution isn't the best. Some things aren't really very well explained, and some others aren't even explained at all, although they aren't really that important in order to understand what's going on. All in all, I like the story, although deep down it's nothing groundbreaking. Anyway, I'll try to use clips that don't spoil anything, but I can't guarantee you'll get away unharmed since a few fight clips can potentially spoil a little bit of the game for you. With that out of the way, let's get into the review, shall we? So yeah, Scarlet Nexus, Bandai Namco's newest release. It even has an anime adaptation coming out at the same time, which I'm not watching because why would I? I already spent 60 bucks on the interactive version of the anime. Anyway, so what is this game about? Well, I'll only tell you as much as Steam does on the game's page. Essentially, you can choose between two characters to progress the story, Kasane Randall or Yuito Sumeragi. So, being the absolute max level manly alpha turbo chad that I am, I chose to be a woman, obviously. Not only that, but she is a white-haired kudere, you know, one of those girls that displays absolutely no emotions whatsoever and accidentally comes out extremely cold towards others. Nice. Both of them have the power of psychokinesis, you know, the thing where you move stuff around by using your mind and clenching your asshole. It's like the Force with Star Wars. Before we go on to the actual gameplay review and stuff, let me just comment on this one aspect which you've probably already noticed by now, the cutscenes. As you can see, this is what most of the cutscenes look like. You have a bunch of slides, like a PowerPoint presentation, and then you got pictures of the characters moving their mouth as they speak. I gotta say, at first, I was a little bit bothered by this. It actually kind of reminded me of when Peppy talked to you during missions in Star Fox 64.
This is Peppy. All barrel roll. Try a barrel roll.
At second, I was still bothered by this. I can't say I liked it, since you actually have some animated cutscenes that look really amazing. It was even worse when they used this style of animation during quote-unquote action cutscenes, making it difficult to tell what the hell was going on. But hey, if unlike me you're a fan of visual novels, you'll probably like this, I guess. Anyway, onto the review. Let's get the easy stuff out of the way first. Art, aesthetics, character design and such, they're all really good. The overall graphical quality of the game is very satisfactory, and like most Bandai Namco games, it's not a heavy load on the hardware. The whole brain punk aesthetic of the game is pretty nice. You've got the whole hologram thing going on in the city, very high-tech stuff. Reminds me a lot of Detroit if Detroit wasn't in absolute shambles and looking like a real-life version of Mad Max. Anyway, the character design is also very good, and it reminded me a bit of the character design in the Dot Hack series. But then again, that's also Bandai Namco, they really don't miss when it comes to character design. One thing that caught my attention though was the NPC models. For whatever reason, in this game's alternate version of the year 2020, people only have like 2 or 3 outfits to choose from. Either that or coincidentally, a lot of the NPCs decided to come out the house dressed the same way. But you know, whatever, who am I to judge the fashion sense of digital beings? To sum it up, I think the game does very well in terms of graphical quality. It looks like every other Bandai Namco game ever, but you know, if you like that, you'll like this. On to the soundtrack we go, and again, I didn't expect anything different from Bandai Namco, always with the bangers. The soundtrack is pretty good. As a matter of fact, it is what you're listening to in the background right now. I thought it would be fitting to use the game's OST as the BGM for the video, much like I did with my Persona 5 Strikers review. I like the way the music fits in with the whole aesthetic of the game. It even has some oral cigarettes in it, you know, the band that made the opening to Noragami Arigato, which was also a freaking banger. Much like Dot Hack GU's OST, I'll probably be listening to this in my free time as well. Oh man, this review is gonna be super short, huh? I guess that's what happens when you don't review the story in a story-driven RPG, but oh well. Either way, let's talk about what this game has and what this game has not. I'll tell you what it has. It has managed to get your boy a 20-hour-long erection because man, the combat in this game is fucking awesome. I'm willing to bet that's what most of the time the studio had went into. This is some next level shit right here. Not in the sense that it's super innovative and whatnot, but the combat feels pretty good and it doesn't ever get tiring. So why is the combat good? Well, remember how I said our protagonists have psychokinetic powers? Rest assured, that is the main reason why I love the combat mechanics in this game. Pretty much all of the fighting in the game revolves around the psychokinesis ability, which allows you to control objects in the environment around you and use them as pseudo weapons. There's also some special objects around the maps that trigger unique animations and do more damage, like, you know, making your opponents wet with water barrels, running them over with a decommissioned train. Hell, you can even cosplay as a bus driver and run them over with that too. It's some really cool shit. I mean, it's not every day that you get to clap an oversized mosquito with a vending machine, so, you know, in that sense, I'd say that this game has a lot going on for it. But, obviously, tossing stuff around isn't the only way to go about fighting pot plants and gigantic goats. Each one of the main characters also has actual melee weapons. Yuito wields a sword while Kasane controls a bunch of knives around with her psychokinesis. Needless to say, the latter is way cooler. Another interesting feature that makes combat more interesting in this game is the borrowing other party members' skills so you can use it yourself. Sorry, I forgot the actual term. Anyway, it allows you to take on the other party members' powers and add it to your attacks. Like, yeah, no shit. For example, Shiden has the power of electrokinesis, which means he can control electricity. Since he's my little bitch, I can press right bumper in A and make him lend me his power, so as to add electricity to my attacks, causing more damage to enemies affected by water, for example. I feel like this particular mechanic was nice to have, but ultimately I ended up not using it all that much. You don't really need it to progress through the missions. Certain enemies do require, kinda, you to use certain skill, like this Chernobyl-born mosquito that moves at the speed of sound. To match his speed, you supposedly need to use Arashi's ability, Super Velocity, which makes you go vroom vroom, you know, like the beloved blue guinea pig from that one video game series, but at the end of the day, you can still kill it without having to rely on it. Other skills include Kyoka's Duplication, a skill that duplicates any object you decide to angrily throw at these poor creatures. Hey, wanna toss 2 bikes at this goat's face instead of only 1? Use this skill. There's Gemma's Sclerokinesis. Man, these guys love the word kinesis, huh? Which pretty much just, you know, hardens your abs and therefore you take less damage and don't get knocked back. You've got Tsugumi's Clairvoyance, makes you see invisible enemies and whatnot. This one's pretty boring, to be honest. See this guy with exactly 1 Sharingan? He can make you go invisible. Honestly, this skill is pretty overpowered, considering that all the enemies literally just stop whatever they're doing once you go invisible, and you pretty much have all the time in the world to come up behind them and violently poke their booty holes. My favorite power, though, is Psychokinesis. Not mine, you fool, but rather the combination of Kasane's and Yuito's Psychokinesis. And what do you get when you have Psychokinesis plus Psychokinesis? If you answer 2 times Psychokinesis, you're wrong. What are you, an idiot? Well, to be fair, you're not totally wrong. You actually do get like a stronger Psychokinesis. You get to toss a bunch of shit at once instead of just, well, 1 shit. But wait, there's more. We're like a quarter of the way through the combat mechanics in this game. Yeah. Next up we have the Brain Crush. It's nothing new, to be honest. It's pretty much the equivalent of executing enemies, something that you see quite often in other games. See that yellow bar below the enemy's health bar? I hope you do, otherwise there's something seriously wrong with your eyesight. But anyway, once that is depleted, you get to execute the enemy, and you deplete it faster by hurling things at the bad guys. Much like in real life, if you toss enough trash cans at someone, you get to execute them. Some enemies can only be killed by brain crushing them, and honestly, I thought this mechanic would get boring pretty soon, but the animations are just so cool that you don't get tired of ever seeing them. The next mechanic we'll cover is the Brain Drive. Essentially, once you fill up this meter, you get really pissed off and your clothes become a lot cooler. Not only that, it also increases the damage you deal, the speed of your psychokinesis, and you also get some other bonuses. It's nothing new to the genre, these special fighting modes that you get by filling up some meter, but again, like the Brain Crush, the animation is so cool that it's always nice to see it when you get it. Finally, the last combat mechanic that I'll cover, the Brain Zone. Yes, yet another thing with brain in the name. Much like the Brain Drive, this is also like a special combat mode, and it's also nothing groundbreaking. But it's also really fucking cool. You fill up another meter, you press both sticks at the same time, and you activate the Brain Zone, making stuff around you levitate and shit. You get to hit people with said stuff, you can toss it at them, you can gather them up in a huge ball and then toss it at them. It is, as the 21-year-old kids like me nowadays say, lit. I mean, seriously, this thing is literally so badass that if you forget to turn it off and exceed the time limit, you literally fucking die. Now we move on to the things that make this game slightly less cool, but only slightly. Everything else. Don't let this dissuade you from thinking that the game is good though. I genuinely think this is a good game. I had a lot of fun playing it, but there are certain things that kind of bothered me a little bit. one of them being the lack of things to do. You see, in RPGs, you usually get some nice side quests to distract you from the main storyline. In this game though, most of the side quests aren't really exciting or fun enough. They're mostly comprised of kill certain enemy in a certain way or gather some stuff for me, and that's kind of it. Not to mention, there were several times where I tried roaming around other maps while the main story was on intermission, but I barely found any enemies at all. I wish they had made more side quests, perhaps with side stories to go along with them, and maybe with more interesting goals. To counterbalance that, however, there was one thing that I liked a lot about the intermission, and that is the hideout. Like the name says, that's where you, well, hide. Or to be more precise, just stay. It's a place where you can join up with your party members and interact with them. Give them gifts to raise your bond level and unlock bonuses for their skills. And you can go out with them too, although you literally go to the same bar with every character every time. I like the general interactions with the other party members. It's refreshing, considering all the cutscenes that go on when you're doing the main quest line. Another thing that disappointed me a little bit was the environment and enemy info thing that they have in this game. It's an item that stays in your inventory, and well, from the name you would guess that it is some sort of mechanic that, you know, allows you to perhaps exploit new weak points in enemies, or maybe open up new areas in the different maps, but no, it's none of that. It is literally just a currency. See, you can use it at the shop to buy weapons and stuff. Not gonna lie, I was pretty let down by that, but not everything is bad. I know I have been shit talking the game a bit for the last couple of minutes, but trust me, I do like the game, I really do. Have I ever lied to you? No. Not that I can remember, it's been like 30 videos. I might have a few times maybe, but the point here is, the game is not bad, trust. Remember 4 lines ago when I said you could use that currency to buy weapons and stuff? Well, the stuff I was referring to includes visual accessories for your characters, and those accessories in turn include cat ears. You see where I'm going with this, right? To put it bluntly, I put cat ears on everyone. Doesn't matter how serious of a character they are, they were getting cat ears whether they liked it or not. If Bandai Namco isn't gonna give me natural cat girls, I will make them myself. Other than that, as an RPG, it does its job. You got the typical talent trees. Fortunately, they are pretty well made. It's not like, for example, Cyberpunk 2077 skill trees, where most skills in them are just attribute percentage upgrades. Although I will say this, there are certain skills that are sort of a must-have when getting through the game, like the one where you can press B to get up faster. Like seriously, if you don't get this skill every time you get knocked down, you're gonna be down for a while. You can talk to people in the streets, try and get to know a bit more of the game's lore, but obviously I didn't do that. Before I move on to the summary, I'll quickly go over a few bugs that I've encountered. The first one, and this one's purely visual and probably would have went unnoticed if I was lacking 3 more brain cells, was in this one cutscene where suddenly everyone turned into one of my favorite genders, Kasane, or at least in the dialogue they did. Everyone's names turned into Kasane for some reason. The other bug that I encountered actually was a game-breaking one. I tried using the psychokinesis and Kasane just kinda stood there for a pretty long time, and nothing happened. I clicked every button I could, but absolutely fuck all happened. It wasn't until my savior came and hit me, allowing me to be free and thus killing him as a way to pay him back for releasing me. Also, I'm pretty sure that bug happened twice, but I can't really remember. Finally, throughout the entire game I had exactly 1 crash. I thought OBS would record the little warning message that pops up, but it didn't. It just cut off the footage. But yeah, to sum it all up, if you like good combat mechanics, beautiful anime graphics with a brainpunk aesthetic, very well made animations, a good soundtrack, then honestly I would say get this game. I had a blast playing it, but then again I enjoy games that focus more on gameplay rather than on story or other aspects. But if you're looking for a phenomenal story that is going to have you wishing you could forget it all just so you can experience it all over again, and a full-on RPG where you can make plenty of decisions, go on fun side quests and stuff, then perhaps you should look somewhere else. As a ground rule, I always recommend Persona 3 if you're looking for an RPG. Well, any Persona game to be honest. Persona 4 Golden is actually on sale right now, so you know, just get that instead. I know it sounds weird to say that story enjoyment is subjective and everyone should just experience it for themselves and then proceed to shit on the story a little bit, but I honestly can't say that I was moved by it. But hey, you can always watch the anime, right? And that concludes the review. If you liked watching this video, leave a like. If you didn't like watching this video, leave a dislike. Subscribe, follow me on Twitch, you know, all of that stuff that people say on their outros and whatnot. And yeah, see ya.